episode 2353. How fascinating to you and to me. Okay, maybe not.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
It's good to finally bring you a podcast after a busy Friday that seemed it would continue.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
On into the weekend and never end, and here we are. It's Mike Matthews. This is a show where we talk about things that you probably already know, but then we talk about it in a way you didn't know, and then you're like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that, Mike. Thank you. How's your life doing? Are you having a lot of, what do you call that? Eggnog? No, because it cannot be found.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Anywhere you go, it is gone. All of it gone. All the eggnog. I don't know where it is. Except if you want
Mike's
oat eggnog.
Daily
I have not tried that yet.
Podcast.
This is an important show.
Yeah!
Today, because I'm going to discuss crazy drivers. Yes, in the holidays and everybody... Well, a lot of people have gotten their boosters and they're out and about, and or if you're Canadian, oot and boot, and they are very much all these drivers, different ages, different sizes and shapes, and they're all driving, and some of them come to a stoplight, and they're the first person to go through the intersection, and it turns green, and they don't go through the intersection, they just stay there. And meanwhile, you're 10 cars back, and you're wondering, why is the guy in the front not going? And questions like these can't be answered on this podcast. And then there is all the kids get let go on Friday before the Christmas holiday, and it's at noon, and they get ready to go, and parents they gridlock every single road near a school, and I guess we're not going to find out about that on this podcast either, but that's what happens. We don't know the answer to that. It just happens. Gridlock. And then Elizabeth Holmes. I guess as of this moment, we don't know the verdict of this trial about her. I don't know all the ins and outs, but I do know it was brought up that she and her boyfriend, who was also a big part of the company.
Here's today's podcast picture.
Apparently, we're not having the best of relationships. She was being manipulated by him somehow. There was a word. What was it called? Was it intimacy abuse? I'm not sure I've ever heard that word before. I've heard of domestic abuse, and that's bad. Intimacy abuse. Well, any abuse is bad, but what? That's a new one. That's like that conscious uncoupling thing that Gwyneth Paltrow came up. That's right, Basil the Boxer. Aw, the late great Basil the Boxer. And this picture is actually from 4 years ago. I believe Basil was with me. And we were somewhere in Podcastro Valley. You can see this picture at mikesdailypodcast.com of some wonderful Christmas holiday lights. And I've been posting a lot of those lately. You can see them at mikesdailypodcast.com. I was watching a video from almost 2 years ago. It was the last time, it was on New Year's Eve, 2019, and it was the last time Basil ever got to see the beach. And I didn't realize that my lovely lady friend videoed it. And it was pretty emotional for me to watch that, because I watch it now knowing this was the last time he was ever going to see the ocean. And it was pretty tough on me, because he loved the beach. And at this point, his back legs didn't work anymore, and I had to carry him with a harness. His back legs, but his front legs, it was amazing. He had so much power. I forgot how agile he was, even as the disease the degenerative myelopathy had taken the use of his back legs away. He was still able to use his front legs very well. And he got down to the beach, and then he had to plop down because it was just really, at that point, he had to go in little spurts. But we sat on the beach together and watched the ocean. And yeah, I was there recently in mid-November, just before my birthday. Got to go there. We brought Basil's ashes with us. We didn't scatter them, but we brought him with us and just remembered him and enjoyed that spot. But see a picture of the wonderful holiday lights in Podcaster Valley. I was watching a guy who does a lot of travel vlogs, video blogs. He goes to a lot of places in the South and in Florida. And he was walking around this spot in Orlando, near Orlando, and all these Christmas lights. And they just do some of these old Southern style mansions with the columns and whatnot. And they do some crazy lights on those too. So we don't have many of those column type houses here in Podcastro Valley in California in the Bay Area. But you see them all over the South. That's when you know when you're in the South. And if you run into some of the friends that I made in Huntsville, Alabama, say hi to them for me. I talked to someone who went to visit a bunch of friends I have not seen in 10 years. And I was told I need to go back. People miss me, so I need to go. And people probably miss you. Are you going to travel this year? I really don't want to travel. I may have to do a little bit of it. But I don't want to. I don't want to deal. I did it back in October. And the masks on the plane thing is very annoying. Maybe if I did it more often, I'd be used to it, but yikes, not a fan. Okay, by the way, quick reminder, you can hear my radio show tomorrow and every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and there's a link at mikesdailypodcast.com. I play a bunch of great upbeat music from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I play some Bon Jovi tomorrow, and I was thinking about Bon Jovi. Not the man John Bon Jovi, but the band Bon Jovi. Kind of like, remember Chris Daughtry, and then his band was called Daughtry. Oh, he had some horrible news happen recently. I won't go into that. I will go into, as we go outside, we go out of Cafe Anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. I will go into discussing Eric Clapton. So I listened to Stand and Deliver, the song that he wrote with Van Morrison. I am huge fans. I'm a fan of both of those people. They're probably fans of each other. I love them both very much as musicians, and their songs have made me very happy over the years. But this collaboration, Stand and Deliver, I'll say the music, the instrumentation behind it with the blues riff and everything is wonderful. And if you did not know what it was about, you may not even come up with an opinion about it. But when you know that it is about two guys griping about the fact that there's a virus out there, that there's a pandemic happening, and it's just treated all nonchalant, and that the government, what this really is, the real disease is the government is putting too much, grabbing too much control over our lives. And that's basically what they're singing about when you find out the behind the scenes. Now, then this comes down to, well, that's what the media says. It's not really what, yeah, it is what Eric Clapton says. It is what Van Morrison say, and it is about that. They are anti-vaxxers. They think this vaccine is not needed. And why put that into your body? And I just had the flu shot. I haven't been able to get my booster yet. I spoke to my doctor. She said I might have to go through CVS or Walgreens, and that's always a nightmare. I do have an appointment for sometime in late January to get it from my doctor, but she was suggesting to try and get it beforehand. And I discussed with her about the whole anti-vax thing. She's a very intelligent woman. I will say I do feel a little bit like she's more of a data entry person, because all she's doing is typing in, okay, let's see, Mike's got this wrong with him, he's got this wrong with him, he needs to have this test done, that test done, this done, and it's all data entry, and we go over the same material we went over last year, and the exam part takes all of 5 seconds. It's super fast, and I disagree with that, but this fear of vaccines. My whole question is it really come down to the whole Theranos thing. Back to Elizabeth Holmes. She talked about often the reason why she created Theranos. Is it Theranos? Is it the guy from the Marvel movies? That's Thanos. Sorry. I don't know. Some kind of connection going on. But I often wondered about people like... So Elizabeth Holmes created this company because she was afraid of needles. Afraid of having to give blood and having your... You know what? There's a solution to that, and that is look the other direction. Don't watch them do it. Don't watch them put the shot into your body or take the blood out of your body. You look away. You let the experts do their job. And you have to have a little faith, a little trust. It's interesting. So one of the biggest anti-vaxxers I know, he does a show... And I actually told my doctor about this, and she was not happy. Because, well, I have something to do with getting this guy on the air. It's very frustrating because I disagree with his whole anti-vax attitude. And you know what? You might be an anti-vaxxer, and you might agree with him. And there's freedom of speech. Misinformation, however. Anyway... the doctor's like, well, is he spreading misinformation? And I'm saying to her, yes, well, he says this, that, and the other thing. And she goes, well, you know what? That is misinformation. She was not exactly pleased with it, hearing about it. But this guy that's spreading the misinformation is a man of faith. And here you go, having no faith in doctors. All you have faith is in God. But at some point, what about... the people that God, people have, there are a lot of Christians that have gotten vaccinated. I know a lot of them. I don't get it. Why has this become so political? Why has this become a religious, non-religious thing? A liberal, conservative thing? It's just ridiculous. It's a life and death thing in the end. And there are many, many conservative talk show hosts that have died because they refused to get vaccinated. And they're dead now. They could have had the vaccine. Their symptoms could have been much less. Would they have still died? I don't know. I'm not God. I don't know that answer, but common sense would say not likely. So, Eric Clapton's bashing Rolling Stone because they've done an article recently all about how he's turned into an anti-vaxxer. And the latest Eric Clapton news is he sued somebody who was offering to sell online on eBay for $11 a bootleg. I believe it was a bootleg of a concert that he did, as I understand it. So he took her to court, and she lost. So now she is responsible for paying for all the legal bills. So that comes out to $4,000. Somebody, and we live in a world today where we quote people that tweet. So, however odd that is, somebody tweeted, let's just be honest, they just said this. Somebody said this and it was caught on the internet, and they said the following. They said, well, Eric Clapton could have just given the lady $11. Instead, he went and forced her to pay him $4,000, or she had to pay $4,000. And this lady is a 50-something German woman, I believe, from what I remember from the article that I read early this morning. Why Eric Clapton would... He's got that on his... That's on his now, not his tombstone, but that's following him around the internet. A lot of people are upset at Eric Clapton. So, anti-vaxxer, he's punishing his fans. Not a good place to be. Yet, 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, when If I Could Change the World, we were all singing that song. That song won a bunch of awards, #1 on the charts. Anyway, I hope Eric turns it around. Speaking of music, NPR has this show called, is it All Things Music or All Music Considered or something to that effect? Hey, they had their top 20 list. The top 50 songs of the year. These are the best songs. And I listened to a couple of them. Oh my gosh. These are the best songs. Whiny, that same affectation or pacing or timbre or whatever you want to call it, the style of singing that sounds like every other young person singing today, that forced, it's just not real. It's not from the heart. It's this, do you know what I'm saying? It's like they tried to copy Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston. They try and copy a style where it's like we've heard it all before. And they're like, oh, this is the best stuff. This is NPR. We play the best music. No. How much money did you get, NPR, for playing that song? Hey, let's talk about prostate cancer. That's where this show is going. Not that the show will give you prostate cancer, but one of the interesting things my doctor told me, because she goes, do you want to have a prostate exam? A prostate cancer, an exam for prostate cancer. And I said, well, yeah, it sounds like something I should do. She goes, is there a history of prostate cancer in your family? And I said, I don't think so. But apparently, the test is not accurate right now. You would think, I need to take the test. I need to find out. But you could have a result that tells you have it when you really don't. Or tells you don't have it when you really do. She says it's not exact yet. So what are common tests and procedures for prostate cancer? There is an exam, and I think she was referring to this, where they actually, it involves a hand and a glove, and I pretty much won't go into the rest, but you know where the prostate is generally, so you know what they have to do with that, with those instruments involved. They do a test like that. They also do a blood test that checks for prostate-specific antigen, or PSA. Also, an ultrasound uses a small-sized probe inserted where exactly you would think it would go to obtain images of the prostate. And then there's a biopsy where they take or a babopsy if you watched My Big Fat Greek Wedding. A small sample of the prostate mass is taken for microscopic examination to assess the type and severity of the cancer. So it all comes down to, now, I don't know exactly what she was saying was inaccurate. Maybe it was the blood test. I think she was probably referring to the blood test, that it's not specific enough is what she was saying. But it all comes down to your symptoms. Do you show symptoms of prostate cancer? One of them being having a difficult time being able to do number one, or you have to do number one a lot, or you can't really do number one. And then there's also pain or discomfort in the pelvic area. Bone pain is mentioned here, and then if you see blood in that area. Now, more than 3 million cases per year. It is a cancer of the prostate gland, a part of the male reproductive system. So women, congratulations, you don't have to worry about this. The prostate is a small walnut-shaped gland in males that produces, the fluid. Let's just call it the fluid that men make. Okay. And yes, it's very dangerous and life-threatening. It can be. And I'll tell you, I have lost 2 friends because of it. One of the guys, he did a fantastic podcast called Pod Zeppelin. I miss him very much. He was younger than me, and he had it when he was younger, had to have a test, the surgery for it, and then had to deal with the consequences of the surgery, and then it came back, unfortunately. And then somebody that we both worked for and used to make jokes about, because this guy was kind of odd. He would talk to you for long periods of time, and he would not pick up on the subtle nonverbal cues that you were done with listening to him and you wanted to leave. Let's say, I gotta go somewhere. You would actually be walking out of his office and he'd still be talking to you, carrying on a conversation like you were still... It was crazy. But he also passed, ironically enough, of the same thing that the other guy had. Only he contracted it much later in life. But yeah, so it is something, if you're male, to be aware of and to know the symptoms. And there is medication for it. Treatments include chemotherapy, medications to stop the hormone activity, radiation therapy, and surgery. These can be used alone or in combinations to treat cancer. And this was pulled from Bing. They have actually they've pulled some medical information that they use. They do say, of course, this is just for informational purposes. Consult a medical professional for advice. But their information was reviewed by a panel of doctors, and they actually call this, the name of it is Focus Medica. But there's more information on the Bing.com website about that. But thought I'd pass that along to you males. And if you're a female, you probably know a male. That you probably have a male friend somewhere in this world, and it's good to know for those purposes. But I hope everyone you know and love are going to be well into the new year, into 2022, and that all will be well and all shall be well. And I don't want to say the rest of that saying because I'm not British. It sounds really pretentious when an American says it, because it's a very British saying. But anywho, when a British person says it, that saying sounds good. So get a British person to say the all shall be well thing. And then all manner of things will be well when they do that, because it sounds really cool. I love British accents. There's so many. There's a myriad of them. And I know that because I have BritBox. And I'm like, what is that accent? Oh, that's from the north part of the country, apparently. What? Really? What about that one? Oh, that's called the really complicated name one, that the Welsh, the Wales, the Celtic one. There's all kinds. Some of them, it's not even English you're hearing anymore. But whatever, we're outside a cafe anyway with all these birds. I think these birds all flew from Ireland, so they're all having a great time. Or maybe they're from Scotland. Aren't they part of the EU still? Or is that Ireland? I need to get on a plane and fly and put on a mask and explore the world and find out more. But here we are outside a cafe anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley 10, the last place on earth. Look who's here.
Hello, Michael Mess. It's Madame Rootabega. I feel very sad about Eric Clapton. Ooh.
Did you guys date?
Yes.
I bet he was pretty wild.
Yes.
Did you know Layla?
No.
Okay, yeah, there was that song. He wrote that one. Wow. The guy that wrote Layla wrote Stand and Deliver. That's pretty shocking. Hey, another interesting thing about Eric Clapton is that he was not in the Traveling Wilburys. Look who else is here.
Hello there, Mike. This is Valentino, the parking attendant.
And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that?
Mike, we are not going to express our opinion either way about vaccines.
Yeah. We don't believe in them. Do you know that?
Wow.
Wow.
Gosh, I got some anti-vaxxers out here, too. It's a
wow.
hodgepodge of people. Ahoy polloi here at Cafe anyway. Oh, yeah. Eric was heavily into drugs at one point in his life. And then he got through it, and I think he went to I think he had electrotherapy. Is that what I heard from Behind the Music? That VH1 show? So, maybe he did some of the drugs that involve needles, and he had a bad experience with that. I don't know. But it may be in the Rolling Stone article I need to read. At any rate, I don't really watch much or read. You read the Rolling Stone. However, I have watched the Rolling Stone video that included David Byrne interviewing Lorde. That was entertaining. But I have not read much Rolling Stone lately because they do seem to only write articles about a few musicians that they really love, and then the rest of the world forget about it. So, if it's the same people that NPR is talking about on the All Songs Considered, All Music Considered show, I don't know. But I hope you listen to some good music. Maybe you can make some suggestions at my number 336MM Daily. 3 + 3 = 6. MM is a Mike Matthews Daily, as in what this podcast tries to be but gets interrupted. Maybe we'll do one tomorrow and be more in the daily world. We'll see. But till then, thank you for listening. And I'm going to go fix a thermostat.
Yeah.
Oh, and next show, it will be Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, and John Deere the Engineer.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye.